Hello? We live? We're live, huh?
We're live.
Okay, what do we see here? Some people are talking. I'm going to go to our live screen so I can watch it. You'll see my commentary. Oh, I can hear it.
I think we're about to start here.
Me too.
This is an ABC News special, an election year like no other, with shattering voter turnout.
A vote for Republicans is a vote for safe communities, great jobs, and a limitless future for all Americans.
We choose hope over fear. We choose unity over division, science over fiction, and yes, we choose truth over lies. It's time to stand up and take back our democracy.
The final presidential debate starts right now, live
All right.
from University in Nashville, Tennessee, and ABC News election headquarters. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
And welcome back to our special coverage of tonight's final presidential debate, just moments away now, and that is the scene at Belmont University in Nashville.
Hey, this is pretty cool. We can do this.
President Biden will take 90 minutes and take questions.
Well, anyone who actually values what we have to say over what the future president of the United States does, thanks for tuning in.
No, I'm gonna tweet live too, so people can.
In this race. Also, a warning sign for President Trump. He's behind in the national polls right now, and the key.
I mean, what an incredible amount of people that have voted already. Something like 60% of the 2016 electorate has already turned out in Texas.
1/3, they say. About 1/3 of the electorate's already voted.
And George, when the president is behind, he goes on the attack. I expect that is what will happen here. I think he will go after Joe Biden in very personal ways, going after his family, going after his son.
Yeah, because that's what we care about, is the family problems of the Biden family.
I think he will.
It's so out of touch.
I mean, in some ways, I'm glad that they're cutting the mics tonight, but you know, it's not going to be an accurate reflection of how unhinged Trump is.
But here's the thing: is he's gonna continue to talk, and then he's gonna be on the other side, and Biden's gonna hear him, even if we can't hear him.
Right.
It's gonna be annoying for Biden, that's for sure.
They want to let Joe Biden talk and see what happens if that happens. Mary Bruce, what is the Biden team prepared for?
Well, Joe Biden's goal here tonight really is just to stay the course. He needs to avoid any big missteps. He needs to avoid giving the president any big openings here. He knows that Donald Trump is going to come after him with personal attacks against him and his family. They are braced for the fact that this debate could get ugly. And Joe Biden is going to push back against personal attacks, but he really doesn't want to get into the mud with the president. That is easier said.
Hey, AJ's on. How you doing, AJ?
To stay laser focused on the president's handling of this
Lots of people
pandemic.
are on here. We got Michelle's on. Judith is on. Hey, Judith. Jay Maslow's on.
This is about your
Matt
family.
is on.
In their next president.
But Mary
Hank Dunn's on. Hey, Hank.
More than he wanted to at the last debate.
Dennis is on.
And George, I have to tell you,
you want to go outside, buddy?
Supporters who are not happy with the tone that they heard from the former vice president. He was very blunt, often very harsh. At one point, he even told the president of the United States to shut up. I think it will be interesting tonight to see whether he softens.
Yeah, what was he supposed to say? Sit there and pretend that the president wasn't acting crazy? I don't. Like, do you? I mean, I think Biden is taking the high road by saying he's sorry for what he said. But at the same time, you kind of get it, don't you?
Absolutely. Here we go.
Good evening from Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm Kristen Welker of NBC News, and I welcome you to the final 2020 presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Tonight's debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. It is conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Commission's health security advisor. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, boos, or other interruptions, except right now, as we welcome to the stage former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump.
Red tie, blue tie.
Yeah, I thought it was weird that my opponent wore a green tie the other day.
No plexiglass tonight.
They took it down because they're both tested.
And I do want to say a very good evening to both of you. This debate will cover 6 major topics. At the beginning of each section, each candidate will have 2 minutes uninterrupted to answer my first question. The debate commission will then turn on their microphone only when it is their turn to answer, and the commission will turn it off exactly when the 2 minutes have expired. After that, both microphones will remain on, but on behalf of the voters, I'm going to ask you to please speak one at a time. The goal is for you to hear each other and for the American people to hear every word of what you both have to say. And so with that, if you're ready,
Fingers crossed.
Start. And we will begin with the fight against the coronavirus. President Trump, the first question is for you. The country is heading into a dangerous new phase. More than 40,000 Americans are in the hospital tonight with COVID, including record numbers here in Tennessee. And since the two of you last shared a stage, 16,000 Americans have died from COVID. So please be specific. How would you lead the country during this next stage of the coronavirus crisis? 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So, as you know, 2.2 million people modeled out were expected to die. We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that
Ridiculous.
came from China. It's a worldwide pandemic. It's all over the world. You see the spikes in Europe.
Not anymore.
Other places right now. If you notice, the mortality rate is down 85%. The excess mortality rate is way down and much lower than almost any other country. And we're fighting it, and we're fighting it hard. There is a spike. There was a spike in Florida, and it's now gone.
I keep saying this. We have about 4% of the population.
In Arizona, it's now gone. And there are some spikes and surges in other places. They will soon be
25% of the world's deaths.
Vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks, and it's going to be delivered. We have Operation Warp Speed, which is the military is going to distribute the vaccine. I can tell you from personal experience that I was in the hospital. I had it, and I got better. And I will tell you that I had something that they gave me, a therapeutic, I guess they
If I get sick, does a helicopter pick me up?
But I was in for a short period of time, and I got better very fast, or I wouldn't be here tonight. And now they say I'm immune, whether it's 4 months or a lifetime.
How many people's loved ones didn't have access to that kind of treatment because it was too expensive or not available in their rural areas?
All of us. Nobody had that treatment.
Worldwide problem. This is a worldwide problem. But I've been congratulated by the heads of many countries on what we're able to do.
Lie.
Who congratulated you?
Goggles and masks and gowns and everything else, and in particular ventilators. We're now making ventilators all over the world, thousands and thousands a month.
Wish we would have had them back in February.
It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner.
Still
it's going
saying
away.
it
We
will
are
go away.
not.
Former Vice President, to you, how would you lead the country out of this crisis? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Yeah, he didn't say what he's going to do in the future, by the way.
Dead. If you hear nothing else I say tonight, hear this. Anyone who's responsible for not taking control, in fact, not saying I take no responsibility initially, anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as President of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now, 1,000 deaths a day. And there are over 70,000 new cases per day.
The numbers are gross.
Compared
This is
to
terrifying.
what's going on in Europe, as the New England Medical Journal said, they're starting from a very low rate. We're starting from a very high rate. The expectation is we'll have another 200,000 Americans dead between now and the end of the year. If we just wore these masks, the president's own advisors have told him, we could save 100,000 lives. And we're in a circumstance where the president thus far and still has no plan, no comprehensive plan. What I would do is
No
make sure
COVID
we
plan,
have
no healthcare plan.
to wear a mask all the time. I would make sure we
It
move
wings
in the
everything.
direction of rapid testing, investing in rapid testing. I would make sure that we set up national standards as to how to open up schools and open up businesses so they can be safe, and give them the wherewithal, the financial resources to be able to do that. We're in a situation now.
He's killing
where
it.
the medical journal, one of the most serious journals in the whole world, said for the first time ever that the way this president has responded to this crisis has been absolutely tragic. And so, folks, I will take care of this. I will end
He's
this.
great.
I will make sure we have a plan.
Yes, thank
President
you,
Trump,
sir.
I'd like to follow
That's a
up with
president.
you and your comments. You talked about taking a therapeutic. I assume you're referencing Regeneron. You also said a vaccine will be coming within weeks.
Yes.
Is that a guarantee?
No, it's not a guarantee, but it will be by the end of the year. But I think it has a good chance. There are two companies, I think, within a matter of weeks, and it will be distributed very quickly.
Just like
Can you tell us-
Infrastructure Week.
Just like
Told us
everything.
many years ago.
Yeah. I'll believe we have it when we.
Pfizer's doing very well, and we have numerous others. Then we also
I hope
have
he's
others that
right.
are working very closely with other countries, in particular Europe.
Let me follow up with you, and because this is new information, you have said a vaccine is coming soon, within weeks now. Your own officials say it could take well into 2021 at the earliest for enough Americans to get vaccinated. And even then, they say the country will be wearing masks and distancing into 2022. Is your timeline realistic?
No, I think my timeline is going to be more accurate. I don't know that they're counting on the military the way I do, but we have our generals lined up, one in particular that's the head of logistics. And this is a very easy distribution for him. He's ready to go as soon as we have the vaccine. And we
They
expect to
couldn't
have
administer swabs or tests.
I
No one imagines this is going to
Your
be different.
reaction, and just 40% of
Awful.
Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine if it was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it, know it, look at it, go through all the processes. And by the way, this is the same fellow who told you this is going to end by Easter last time. This is the same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by
He's the same person said we have beautiful masks.
a dark winter. And he has no
Tests,
clue,
rather.
and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you
I don't
have no
think we're going
plan.
to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country.
We're opening.
Studied and understand the disease.
COVID combined with the flu and all of these people.
Yeah,
not
I
wearing masks.
believe Fauci about us winter, not him.
And then ultimately Europe. But China was in January.
The guy
months-
who sold us Trump University, I'm
Let me hear
not
this
taking
part.
his vaccine. I'll take Fauci's.
I should have,
Hear this.
moved quicker, but he didn't move quicker. He was months behind me, many
He was
months behind me.
praising she.
He ran the H1N1 swine flu, and it was
Yeah,
a total disaster.
exactly.
It's lethal.
Does anyone even remember H1N1 in America?
Had that
Like he acts like this is comparable.
numbers, 700,000 people would be dead right now, but it is a far less lethal disease. Look, his own person who ran that for him, who, as you know, was his chief of staff, said,
I'm sorry, you just really don't get credit for killing 200,000 Americans instead of 700,000.
now he comes up and he tells us how to do this.
Wait a
Also,
second.
he said about the way every single move that he said we should make, that's what we've done. We've done all of it. But he was way
No, we
behind
haven't.
us.
We still haven't had tests and swabs ready. There's no
See, yes.
tracking and tracing.
But not
There is
because
still
he
no
had
tracking and tracing in
access
place.
from China. And he did it late after 40 countries had already done that. In addition to that, what he did, he made sure that we had 44 people that were in there in China trying to get to Wuhan to determine what exactly the source was. What did the president say in January? He said, no, he said, this is
Exactly.
the president of China is being transparent. We owe him a debt of gratitude. We have to
He did. He
And-
did.
What happened was we started talking about using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry. It's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your
I
reaction?
say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock
Trump
ourselves.
said
Joe does. He
said
has
we had 11 cases.
the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace. but he has this thing about living in a basement. People can't do that. By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And
Not enough water pressure.
every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families, every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to. It would be horrible to have canceled everything. I said,
He's blaming the Gold Star families again.
And you catch it. And, I caught it. I learned a lot.
You caught it at the Amy Comey Barrett thing, buddy.
And now I recovered.
Trump getting COVID was one of the least surprising things that has happened this year.
Seriously.
99%.
I'm stealing your line.
Recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation, or you're not going to have a nation.
And of course, the CDC has said,
everybody listening understand. Call your friends in other countries. Ask them if this dichotomy makes sense. What he's saying makes sense.
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one, he says that we're learning to live with it. People are learning to die with it. You folks have
Thank you, Joe.
Table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch out of habit where their wife or husband is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it because he has never said, you said it's dangerous. When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still? Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no responsibility.
Let me talk about your two.
Excuse me, I take full responsibility. It's not my fault that he came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not.
No, you made it worse. You made it worse.
China's fault.
We've spread it around the world.
The rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Yeah, but that's the point. If they handled it and other countries handled it, how come you couldn't handle it?
When it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry. It's going to go away. Be gone by Easter. Don't worry. The warm weather. Don't worry. Maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious.
Joe.
A whole range of things the
Don't
president
let them walk this down.
Today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
President Trump.
Look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed,
how hilarious was that joke?
I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy
Pelosi
is he
talking about?
She was dancing on the streets in Chinatown in San Francisco. But when I closed...
I'm going to repeat this. Taiwan has 7 deaths.
Xenophobic. I think he called me racist even.
Whenever he says China, remember this.
It just, Joe, it doesn't work.
I didn't say either of those things.
You certainly did. You certainly did.
I talked about a xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to handling.
He thought I shouldn't have closed the border.
Well,
no, that's not true. That is not true. You go back to WBN and hear me saying when he closed the border, it should be more comprehensive and include Europe. Go back. If I was saying it, Biden was certainly saying it.
Recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the virus?
What I would say is I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why he should have been, instead of in a sand trap at a golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the Democrats.
There you go, Joe. We need a stimulus package now. Chris Jacobs isn't doing a damn thing about it.
More shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the nation, but there are, look, you need standard. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing, do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums, do not open until you get this under control, under more control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity to be able to open and have the capacity to do it safely. For example, schools. Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes.
He's so right.
And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about schools. President Trump,
I think we have to respond, if I might.
Please, and then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on
We're
in
doing a
California,
lot better than a lot of other places, buddy.
North Carolina. Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. They're dying. And he supports all these people.
Oh my gosh.
All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And
This is a fake. This is a fake choice.
Also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small, but I want to open the schools. We have
Tell that to my mom who just had to quarantine.
Tell that to my kids who have to go to school in plastic boxes.
Country with a massive economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often.
We're not opening the country because of you, man.
The problem itself. And that's what's happening.
There's no hope because we don't have any national leadership on the issues that are killing Americans right now.
Bureaucracy says we should close it down.
Vice President Biden, your response.
Simply not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but would they need resources to open?
He's winning.
You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources that are needed to do this. And that is not inconsistent with saying that what we're going to make sure that we
track and trace, and you don't have to shut down the entire country.
Track and trace. This is easy. This is not. It's not magic.
Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town.
Oh, goodness.
Because
of you, man.
These are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money.
It's not magic. Track and trace.
And it's not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic.
So what's the answer? So what is Trump's answer? Get sick?
Take a look at New York and what's happened to my wonderful city for so many years.
Yeah, everyone gets sick.
Everyone's leaving New York.
Lots of people die. Is that his answer?
Curve down in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red states. They're all the United States. And look at the states that are having such a spike in.
So put it on him. What's your answer? Open the country and get over it? Let everyone die?
That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what about...
When you say spike...
This is disgusting. He's blaming New York, but we have over 200,000 deaths in the entire country.
Friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially.
He is really dangerous.
We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly.
We don't understand the disease.
You're not, dude. You're not protecting anybody. You're not.
We have the best
That's the problem. By saying just open up, you're killing us.
Follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots. If you're not listening to them, who are you listening to fight this?
Who is he listening to? He's listening to the whack jobs online.
He did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem. I think
he did not.
Okay, he said
did
this
not.
is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at
Wow.
all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot. Nobody knew. Look,
Yeah, you are.
nobody knew
He's
what this,
blaming Fauci.
where it
He's
was coming
blaming
from.
Fauci.
We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said,
No, with the early days when you knew it was airborne.
this is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then
Trump
we're going
knew the truth, and he lied through his teeth to the country.
Here what Biden says.
January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus, a spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the meantime, we found out in the New York Times the other day that, in fact, his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing. And a memo of that meeting, not from his administration, but from some of the brokers, said sell short because get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then we're
the
going
Wall
to
Street
move
one,
on.
I don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't
Oh,
take it.
don't distract. Answer the question.
Tremendous amounts of money. And every time you raise money, deals are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
What is he saying?
I'd blow away every record, but I don't want to.
He'd be good at taking bribes?
And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street, not me.
No. He's saying that you used the information you had about the virus to make money.
We beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to move on.
Average contribution, $43.
All right, we're going to move on to our next section, which is
That's
national
amazing if that's true.
And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence this election. Both countries have obtained U.S. voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear, and I ask everyone else to take the pledge. I made it clear that any country, no matter who it is, that interferes in American elections will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on right now. They're interfering with American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think the president said anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it.
Why? Say it right now. Say it right now, Trump.
Said, if anything, to the Iranians. My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken with regard to the Iranians. But the point is this, folks. We are in a situation where we have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him that what is happening with his buddy, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens. And then you find out that everything that's going on here about Russia is wanting to make sure that I do not get elected the next president of the United States because they know I know them, and they know.
Rudy is a joke.
I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know why he doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question, why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes to respond. For 2 elections in a row now, there has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries.
Yeah, answer the question.
Next term to put an end to this. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, let me respond to the first part.
Trump did nothing.
Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of
It's
Moscow.
not true. It's just not true. Oh.
$1 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia. I don't get money from Russia. Now
Your family said their financing came from Russia.
He owes $400 million abroad. Who do you owe, Trump? Who owns you?
He said the one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose, because there has been nobody tougher to Russia between the sanctions. Nobody tougher than Russia.
Oh my goodness.
Between the sanctions,
He literally is executing
the NATO countries to put up
Russia's
$130 billion,
foreign
going
policy.
to $120 billion a year. That's to guard against Russia. I sold, while he was selling pillows and sheets, I sold tank busters to Ukraine. There has been nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine.
It's just weird.
Very well, during your term, during you and Barack Obama, they took
What are
over
you talking about?
what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are. But now, with what came out today,
they probably still are.
The emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking in, you and your family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was.
Fakest stuff ever.
And I think you owe an explanation to the American people. Why is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially.
Trump is Russia's puppet. The Russian disinformation campaign is coming directly through Donald Trump's mouth.
Clean it up and talk to the American people.
All he does is confess and project.
Vice President Biden, you may
Confess and
respond.
project.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever.
Why can't he say that's great?
Paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken a single penny from any country whatsoever, ever. Number one. Number two, this is a president. I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them. 22 years of my tax return. You have not released a single solitary year of your tax return. What are you hiding? Why are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country, all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new a golf course you have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
President Trump,
Yeah,
your response.
Joe.
Joe's
I
killing
called
it.
my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them
Yeah,
as soon as we
sure.
can. And it'll
Yeah,
show
sure.
how successful.
His tax returns are hiding with his health care plan.
And then that people were saying $750 a week ago. I said, what did I pay? They said, sir, you prepaid tens of millions of dollars. I
Well,
prepaid
show us.
tens over the last number of years. Tens of millions of dollars I prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate. They think I may have to pay tax. So I already prepaid it. Nobody told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
could release
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two.
I don't even know what
make
he's talking about.
China. You do. I don't make money from Ukraine.
You have,
do. I don't make from
No, he
Russia.
just said he never took money from a foreign power. Can you say it?
And your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think. I don't know. Maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10%
What
to the
is
big
he talking
Joe, what's
about?
that about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of this.
respond to
But
that.
I'm going to let you both respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant
Yes.
about potentially releasing your taxes. Did he tell you when you can release them? Do you have a
the audit
deadline
is-
for
Oh,
when
as
you're
soon
going
as
to
the audit's done. Who is doing the audit so we can interview them?
Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
the time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made a deal, it was all settled until I decide to run for president. I get treated very badly by the IRS, very unfairly.
Sure.
We had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I want to release it.
Can we talk about issues? Can we talk about issues that
And-
affect the American people?
And it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask you both about
Sure you
questions.
did. Sure you did.
potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been raised, to give you both a chance to talk about this more broadly. Respond very quickly, and then I'll get to my question.
Why did he's been saying this for 4 years? Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to reduce your taxes. Nobody knows, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. When last time he said what he paid, he said
he pays more taxes to China than America.
Game the system. Come on, folks. So,
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you on this.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started.
Here we go again.
Even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Let me just say this. Mueller,
oh Lord,
and 18 angry Democrats and FBI agents.
Man, greatest hits tonight.
How many people were arrested?
They went through everything I had, including my tax returns, and they found absolutely no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee.
How many people were arrested and jailed?
I could plenty
because of that witch hunt.
Kind of things that you've done and the kind
at least 8
your family has taken. I mean, your brother made money in Iraq, millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune, and it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it, and you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask.
He's a pretty humble guy. I met him.
President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy company.
We're going to really talk about this?
President, in retrospect, was anything about those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of a Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably. I carried out U.S. policy. Not one single solitary thing was out of line. Not a single thing.
When did we talk about Ivanka and Donnie Jr.?
The guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian government to say something negative about me, which they would not do.
Yeah, seriously.
Because it never, ever, ever happened.
Impeached.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. Nobody else has made money from China.
President Trump, let me ask my question to you.
But could I just one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time.
Okay, 30 minutes.
No longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this. 183, and they gave him a $3 million upfront payment.
All right.
And he had no energy.
I'm going to let the vice president respond to that quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you.
183,000.
Can we talk about healthcare, please, or something else? It's so ridiculous. Talk about conspiracy theories.
This is for you. Since you took office, you've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad. A report this week, which was referenced, does indicate that your company has a bank account in China. So how can voters know you don't have?
I'd rather talk about even this. I'd rather talk about healthcare.
Accounts, and they're all listed, and they're all over the place. I mean, I was a businessman doing business. The bank account you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it, it's listed. The bank account was in
he hid the bank account.
That's what it was. It was open it was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me. And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president.
Topic, please.
Difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich.
It's just a joke.
Vacuum cleaner. They're sucking up money every
President Trump,
place he
thank you. We
goes.
do need to move on. I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly.
Please.
said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus. If you were president, would you pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
What I'd make China do is play by the international rules, not like he has done. He has caused the deficit of China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making sure that...
How do you pressure the China? You work with allies. That's how you do it.
Intellectual property, you have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them.
There's no doubt China tries to steal IP, and they do it through their joint ventures. And the laws in China are nuts. But do you think my opponent understands that better, or me? I can fight to change the laws. I understand what U.S. companies go through over there.
Chinese president and Putin and others, and he.
I mean, it's what your background is one of the things that Biden talked about when he came and visited here.
Yeah, because I
people
actually
in Congress with a background like yours.
Of the world,
it's frustrating because I know I can help.
Be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it. And that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range of other things when we were president and vice president.
All right, let's talk about North Korea.
Excuse me, no, I have to respond to that.
Okay. Very quickly, and then we're going to move on to North Korea.
$1.5 billion from China to manage after spending 10 minutes.
Holy cow, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It's a very strong email talking about your family wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy, though, what specifically are you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going to make them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and
billions.
billions.
Taiwan is strong, guys. How you beat China? China's not paying. The trade gap is bigger than ever.
Taxpayers' money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't come from China.
You know the taxpayer is. It's called China. China paid $28 billion.
Oh, so stupid.
They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And you know who got the money? Our farmers, our great farmers.
No, they didn't. They didn't. They struggled.
Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel industry.
Okay, Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look, this isn't about, there's a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason for it. He doesn't want to talk about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about your family. And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now.
That's right.
Sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to wait another month or so. Or are we going to be able to pay the mortgage? Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community college? They're the decisions you're making. And the middle-class families like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont, they're in trouble. We should be talking about your family.
That's right, man. That's right.
Talk about.
I want to talk about North Korea.
I'm with Joe. No more malarkey.
That's a typical political statement. Let's get off this China thing. And then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician.
Let's talk about North Korea. Okay.
That's why I got elected. Let's get off the subject.
No, you're a horrible politician.
Around the table. All right. Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, you humiliated us.
Talk about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or a long-range missile test, and yet North Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White House right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability.
Because of you, man.
I have a relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And, you know, about 2 months ago, he broke into a certain area. They said, oh, there's going to be trouble. I said, no, they're not. Because
what area?
And I was right. Look, instead of being in a war where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25 miles away, millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul, Millions of people would be
Okay.
dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and I
seconds.
have a good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you, North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you
Love
think
that
you
they
would
cut
be
off
able
his
to
mic.
rein in this persistent threat right
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea? I said, because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue. What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug, and he talks about how we're better off. And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there any conditions under which you would meet with him?
Yeah, give up some nukes.
He would be drawing down his nuclear capacity to get the Korean Peninsula should be a nuclear-free zone.
The next
All right, let's
president and the
move on
next
to
Congress need to
American
sincerely
families.
look at
Very quick, 10 seconds,
nuclear
President.
proliferation on a global scale.
Agreed.
He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
You know
got to
for a
give him a
fact they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know
that's
what?
okay.
Baloney.
North Korea,
Kim
not
met with
relations.
Rodman. He would definitely meet with Obama.
Good
President
relationship
Trump,
with
we have
leaders
to
of
move
other
on because
countries.
we have a
It's a
lot of
good thing.
we have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not a
Your
bad
response.
And we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason he would not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization. We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And it
let's
didn't
move
happen.
on. Let's
Excuse
move on
me.
and talk about
He left
American
me a
families.
mess, Kristen.
President Trump,
Oh,
okay.
brother. You made it worse.
North Korea was a mess.
We
And
need
in
to
fact,
move
if
on.
you
It's
remember
worse than ever.
Tonight,
there was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months before we sort of worked things out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess. And Obama would be, I think, the first to say it was the single biggest problem he thought that our country.
Okay, let's move
Yeah,
on to
like Corona, like COVID, you've ignored the problem.
Most important to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, and health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration
60,000 of them here in NY27.
overturn it. If
Yep.
the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance almost overnight. So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I terminated the individual mandate. That is the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do is terminate it. We have the individual mandate done. I don't know that it's going to work. If we don't win, we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare.
If the ACA goes down,
Obamacare,
60,000 people in NY27 lose their health care.
It's much different. Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I would
It's
like
not
to
true. You have no plan.
better health care, much better.
Not only does he have no plan, but Chris Jacobs and Donald Trump are in court suing to end pre-existing condition protections.
The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House. Okay,
He's
you'll see.
out of his mind.
Wow.
Come up with a better health care.
What is your plan?
With
Show us
pre-existing
your
conditions.
plan.
And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare.
And millions just lost it when they lost their jobs.
These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people, been successful. They have 180 million plans, 180 million people,
my God.
families. under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans.
No, we
have done
don't. No, we don't. I'm
here.
going to post it again. Social. It's not socialized. You have a single payer that controls
Biden,
costs.
yes, for you, your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare. So my question is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden care. The public option is an option that says that if you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid and you do not have the wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically are enrolled, providing competition for insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I didn't, not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it. He's been talking about this for a long time. He's never come up with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan.
And the taxes.
18, 19, and 20. The fact that I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that he's already cost the American people, because of his terrible handling of the COVID virus and the economic spillover, 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare, and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions, and all the people from COVID.
Good answer.
Conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government?
I say it's ridiculous. It's like saying
they know what they're talking about.
The idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between the president, I think health care is not a privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health care. And I am very proud of my plan. It's gotten endorsed by all the major labor unions, as well as a whole range of other people who, in fact, are concerned in the medical field. This is something that's going to save people's lives, and this is going to give some people an opportunity to have health care for their children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost your home insurance, your health insurance, your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President Trump,
he was there for 47 years. He didn't do it.
He passed the ACA.
For 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 and
He was there for 47 years, and he passed the ACA.
He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. Socialized medicine, and it's not that
he passed the ACA and protections on pre-existing conditions.
She is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine.
No, we're not. You don't understand it, I guess.
The Democrats want you all to have health care. What a scary thing.
After he gets a nomination, where he got very lucky to get it, and he goes to Pennsylvania, and he says, oh, we're going to have fracking. And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way.
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask.
He goes for a year. There will be
we have a number of topics we're going to get to.
That's a big question.
We're going to get to.
It's the same thing with socialized medicine.
I have to respond.
Vice President, your response, please.
My response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period. And the Biden care proposal will, in fact, provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it. And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better plans, the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I want to talk
when
about
he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
option,
Hill.
he's talking about socialized medicine.
No,
And when
he is not.
Oh my God.
He talks about a
He's
public
just
option.
lying.
About destroying your Medicare. Totally.
No, he's
just like-
not. No, he's. Oh my gosh! I hate these guys.
You know, Bernie Sanders tried it.
There's
in his
one
state.
candidate on stage who plans to cut Social Security and Medicare, and it's Donald J. Trump.
Let's
It was
let Vice President
impossible
Biden
to work.
respond.
It doesn't
Vice
work.
President
He's
Biden
a very
responds.
confused guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea that
Well, I
we're in a
disagree with that, but
going to destroy Medicare. This is the guy that the actuary at Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security,
Right.
if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy who's tried to cut Medicare.
yep.
So
Yep.
the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security
joke.
and Medicare, come on.
He
Joke.
tried to get rid of, he
Come on,
tried to
man.
get
Then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago.
No, he
Years
did not.
back and look at the records. He tried
No,
to hurt
no,
Social
no.
Security.
This guy
All right,
says
let's move on.
stuff.
I'm going to move on.
That
Let
when
me,
they
Mr.
announced
President, I have
last
to move
week,
on to the next question,
They said
or
the
else
stock
we're not
market
going to
will
have time to
boom
talk about it.
if I'm elected. If he's elected,
No, they
the stock
didn't.
market will crash.
Okay, let's move
biggest
on to the
Jesus.
next question very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is booming is his only measure of what's happening. Where I come from in Scranton and Claymont, the people don't live off of the stock market. Just
No,
in the
that's right.
Thank you.
last three years during this crisis, the billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars. $700 billion more dollars, because that's his only measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there? What happens to them?
Let's talk about what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna move on.
Stock are through the roof.
All right.
And he doesn't come
What
from
about the 2/3 of Americans without
He lived
any
for-
401k or retirement savings?
We're going to move on to
and
the
he
next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next question,
They
gentlemen.
understand.
As of tonight, more than 12
Trump is
million
obviously
people,
nervous about Pennsylvania.
and as of tonight, 8 million Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families
Yep.
are going hungry every day. Those hit hardest are women and people of color.
I
They say
disagree.
Washington
They
finally
haven't fallen into poverty. They
Yeah.
were
Mr.
pushed
President,
into
why
it by the
not?
President
Well,
of the United States.
They need
Yeah,
30
well,
seconds.
yeah.
Because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to approve it. I do.
Oh, come on. You're
Oh.
the one who said you didn't want to
That's not-
negotiate.
Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her. Nancy Pelosi doesn't
Oh,
want
sure.
to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories.
You had to come here and
Date
fight
called
me.
November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi does not want to approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone
Take 'em
through,
off.
including
No,
Democrats.
wasn't
This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right, Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader
Stop
will
talking about politics. Start talking about people's lives.
not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer.
Yeah, they packed the Heroes Act a long time ago.
This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with
Jacobs
$800
voted
billion,
against it.
I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets. So
That's
then
right.
have to fire firefighters, teachers, first responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He will
Thank
not
you,
support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter
The
with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars to these kids. It was also a way of getting a lot of money.
No. You see, it wasn't the plan you wanted, so you didn't negotiate.
People to come into our country illegally.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh gosh.
And what that does, and I'd love to
people
do that.
believe it, which is the problem.
Everybody
Part
all
of
over
the deal, my foot.
Country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a big bailout for badly run Democrat cities and states.
All right,
If I get elected, I'm not
Like
gonna.
Batavia? Like Batavia, who's struggling right now?
I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have to balance their budget. And the founders were smart. They allowed the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we are talking a lot about struggling small businesses and business owners these days. Do you think this is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum wage.
I do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do
is the best time.
We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help them do everything from organize how they can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help.
Jeez, we need this guy.
As the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. Is not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to immigration, but I want to get your
we have to help our small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently.
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses. How are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages?
You pass the HEROES Act is what you do.
Proven to happen is when you do that, these small businesses fire.
Chuck Xavier's right. There has never been a better case for UBI than right now.
$15 an hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. Is that still the case?
And I would consider it to an extent. But what I really
to an extent, well, how much?
Administration, but not to a level that's going to put all these businesses out of business.
How about 15? Okay, geez.
Different places. They're all different.
It seems like we're having an argument from 20 years ago.
$15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick response, Vice President Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the street because they've allowed us to make it. What's happening? They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below the poverty level. And there is no evidence that when you raise the minimum wage, businesses go out.
How long could Ivanka work on $15?
Not true.
We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen. And we're going to talk about families within this context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Yeah, what is
here?
Should be tried on the international stage.
Lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall.
No, there isn't.
Let people
Did Mexico pay for it?
And they come in through
But
America.
how will you reunite these kids with their families,
Let me just tell you,
Mr. President?
they built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper, and it was a picture of these horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages. President
You did
Trump,
it. You bragged about it.
was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids?
Yes, well,
You're what's the plan?
hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation. Quick response, and then another question to you.
These 500 plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border.
Yes, Joe.
Disincentive to come to begin with. real tough. We're really strong. And guess what?
Yeah, really tough.
Not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
They
to
did
that?
it. We
Oh,
changed
my God.
They built the
No,
cages. Who built the cages?
He's a
Joe?
liar. He's a
Cages.
liar. He's a liar. He's a liar.
Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from their arms and separated.
You bragged about it, Trump.
I find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say this.
immigration.
They went
10
down. We
seconds, and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything.
It's
They are
criminal. It's certainly not pro-life.
They're in facilities that were so clean.
But some of
and
them
have gotten
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with
just
their
ask
families.
one
I
question.
don't care how clean they're.
Built the
We
cages.
want to. Where are their parents?
Built the cages.
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It
Yeah,
also
thanks, Mitch McConnell.
deportations as well as family detentions.
Well,
at the
I think they
border.
could have done a lot better at the border. I
So
mean,
why should we
listen.
trust
Obama wasn't perfect, but Trump's been a
Made
complete
a mistake. It
felon.
took too long to get it right. Took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And
Yes.
all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be
Yeah,
immediately
Trump
certified
promised to help the dreamers. He didn't do anything about it.
path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy and they want to do that is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years
Yep.
old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River and it's illegal. And you say, oh no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President
Kristen,
Trump,
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific
How are you done?
release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with.
Such
But
as?
8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except build cages to keep children in.
Vice President Biden,
Wrong.
your response.
The catch and release, you know what he's talking about there? If in fact you had a family came across and they were arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released. And guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that anybody seeking asylum has to do it in another country. That's never happened before in America. That's never happened before in America. You come to the United States and you make your case that I seek asylum based on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response,
so
30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into our country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case. When you say they come
Oh,
back.
good. A Perry Mason reference. I don't know if anybody had that on their bingo board.
Really, I hate to say this, but those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay,
But
President
they're
Trump,
very,
let's
very
give
few.
Vice
Holy
President Biden.
cow.
We're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know the
section.
law, Joe.
Vice President Biden, your response.
If Ellis Island was
Simply
still
not
in
true.
place today,
Check it out.
Trump would have
Come back.
burned it to the ground.
All right, let's move on.
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about it
Let's
anymore.
move on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about our next section, which is race in America. And I want to talk about the way Black and brown Americans experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless of class and income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
I do. I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She has a graduate degree from the University of Pennsylvania in social work. And, you know, one of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African-American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel. And don't reach for the glove box because someone may shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, just yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making child of a $300,000 a year person or someone who's on food stamps. The fact of the matter is there is institutional racism in America. And we have always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. Well, guess what? We have never, ever lived up to it, but we've always constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says, that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health care, better access to schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how to do those things, just to give people a shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you of the question. I would like you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing.
Gosh.
In 1994, when he did such harm to the black community, and they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said
he asked you a question, and you
they
decided to attack Vice President.
1994, your crime bill, the super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And if you look, with the exception,
it's embarrassing.
Possible exception, but the exception of Abraham Lincoln, nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even think they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform.
Holy
cow. What is he talking about?
Yo, man, he blew it. He's a crazy
from
person.
South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black colleges and universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming?
I can't even follow this.
I said, you don't have to come back every year. We have to come back because President Obama would never give them long-term funding. And
Sure.
10 years
Obama
funding,
the
and I gave
racist.
them more money than they
That makes
asked.
sense.
I said, I think you need more. And I said, the only bad part about this is I may never see you again because I got very friendly with them and they like me and I like them. But I saved historically black colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to that, Vice President?
My response to that is I never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities. This is a guy who in the Central Park five innocent black kids, he continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people, he commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact, initiated by Barack Obama. And secondly, we're in a situation here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under our administration. And one of these things we should be doing, there should be no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail because they have a drug problem. They should be going to rehabilitation, not to jail. We should fundamentally change the system, and that's what I'm going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago?
He did.
4 years ago, even less than that. Why didn't you?
You
were vice president. You keep talking about all these things you're going to do,
Biden.
and you're going to do this, but you were
No,
there.
Biden,
just
you ain't perfect.
And
But
you guys
you ain't perfect, but you got a lot more to run on than this guy does.
because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run.
The answer to the actual question here is that we spend far more on jails and incarceration than schools and education, and that has to end.
And I do have some questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am. You know who he is. You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place. The character of the country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up. Please respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
If this stuff is true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician. So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Who is?
I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
From hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I have to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very quickly.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said that this is
President is
5 former heads of the CIA. Both parties say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
Oh, come on.
Exactly what
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President,
believe
you've
that one.
described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters.
Yes, right.
Black professional athletes exercising their First Amendment rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a horrible thing. And they were marching down the street. And that was my first glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible
And you
thing.
weren't paying attention to your own country.
Relationships with all people. I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist person in this room.
But what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that?
Don't know what to say.
Oh.
This reform done, and prison reform, and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what to say. They can say anything. I mean, they can say anything.
Say Black Lives Matter right now.
Makes me sad, because I am the least racist person. I can't even see the audience because it's so dark, but I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the least racist person in this room.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in my worst fuel on every single racist fight. Every single one. Started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's going to get rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned Muslims because they're Muslims. He has moved around and made everything worse across the board. He says about the poor boys. Last time we were on stage here, he said, I told them to stand down and stand ready. Come on. This guy is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I need to give you
That was a good.
Made a reference to
Didn't I say that the other day?
I mean,
You said you're Abraham
no,
Lincoln.
no, where did that?
You're
No,
Lincoln.
not since.
Funny line.
Has anybody done what I've done for the black community?
And I'm
I
saying,
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said,
Abe Trump Lincoln.
has anybody done
He
what
knows
I've done?
that's a mortal balloon.
Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill.
Abe Trump Lincoln.
oh, God.
Tens of thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me,
And you know what?
let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if
Biden
you look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Let me ask
they
Vice
remember
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at what's happening out there.
Vice President Biden, let me give you a chance to respond within this context. Crime
Okay.
bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, their fathers, their uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families. Why should they vote for you?
One of the things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change the since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. Treatment. That's what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done, because I think maybe the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws relating to drug, but they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay.
why didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians.
No, yeah, ACA, yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Biden protected.
Vice president, along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you
Because
get
and
it done?
conditions.
8 years
What
to
did
get
you
it
do?
done. Now
What did you
get
do?
it done. You're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a lot of it done. We released 38,000. We got 38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people who were given clemency. In fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation saying we could look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
With
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago?
Why didn't you do it in the 4 years?
You said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. You put tens of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
We had a Republican Congress.
Yesterday, my opponent said that weed is going to lead to heroin.
Do it, Joe.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section.
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You did what we
we're running
already
out of
done.
time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change. President Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support job growth at the same time? Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program. We have so many different programs.
gosh.
I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best, lowest number in carbon emissions, which is a big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that
That's
we've
not
had
true.
in 5 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy. The Paris Accord, I took it back because we were going to have to spend.
If China is filthy, are we supposed to be filthy too?
Us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair.
A green economy means more jobs, more companies, more economic growth.
And we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest, the best.
That's Flint, Michigan.
That we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
Vice President Biden, 2 minutes.
We have no industry.
Climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity. We have a moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit of emissions will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations as well as labor, the people worried about jobs, to support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new good-paying jobs. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean our health, and our jobs are at stake. That's what's happening. And what right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street, and I'll create $1 trillion more in economic growth than his proposal does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan, that his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan, his environmental plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3.
Yeah, sure.
About the climate.
Yeah, sure. AOC was at it.
But she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look,
sure. Yeah.
Their real plan costs $100 trillion. If
any American actually believes that Joe Biden is the puppet of Andrea Ocasio-Cortez, I will give them $1,000.
It says buildings. They want to take buildings down because they want to make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if no window.
Anyone.
This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how it could be good politically. Right. They want to spend $100 trillion. That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows.
What are you talking about?
And many other things.
Okay.
And many other things.
Let me have the Vice President respond. Running out of time. We have a lot more questions to get to. So let's hear from the Vice President. I have a number more questions.
I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with this number.
Neither do we, Joe.
Nobody does.
A break. This plan was, plan is endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor, because they know the future lies. The future lies.
Middle class depends on the Green New Deal.
And they know there are good jobs in getting us there. And by the way, the fastest growing industry in America is the solar energy and wind. He thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45, 50 bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be cleaner if we go the route I'm proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
please
We are
respond, and then I have some
We are
follow-up.
energy independent for the first time. We don't need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their
That's
energy.
not true at
Energy-
all.
Know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive, kills all the birds. It's very intermittent, got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming
Yeah,
up.
they
if
make
you-
them there because we're doing nothing.
It kills the
fume-
birds. It messes with your pacemaker. You won't be able to sleep at night.
is anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a
Solar.
scientist that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete.
Tell that to Grand Island.
So,
Yeah.
It's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do?
It's not a
We're gonna
pipe
have
dream.
the biggest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the
All right.
economy, get rid of your oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right,
Now-
let me
now we have to ask
let me
about
allow
fracking.
Vice President Biden to
I
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did. Show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website.
Yeah,
fact
show
of
the tape.
Not lying.
Would you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries
One place
to
I'll disagree with
transition
you, Joe.
to get to ultimately a complete zero emissions by 2025. What I will do with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by
What
investing
was
money
Trump saying a second ago? It was totally nuts.
to that.
I have one more question. in
There's
this
just so many weird things.
Fracking,
Tiny
he's-
windows.
I will show that to you tomorrow. I
Good.
am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went to Pennsylvania, then he said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said, no fracking
You
and
said-
or oil on
didn't say
federal
Let
land.
me ask
Yeah.
this final question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making them sick.
ExxonMobil pays no taxes.
On these kinds of facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look
gosh.
at the kind of numbers that we
Not
produce
true.
for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater the percentage gain than it was in 3 years than it was under 8 years.
Your boy here in Western New York's attacking my family who is
9
Asian.
times more. Now, somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of months ago when oil was crashing because of the pandemic.
Okay.
We saved it. We got,
We
say
are
what you want,
barreling towards a
relationship
recession, and he's lying through his
depression.
teeth.
A depression.
to cut back, way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline. Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't understand this. They live near
He did a good job.
that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is any place, including in Houston at the time. When my mom get in the car and when there was first frost to drive me to school, turn in the windshield wiper, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state
Real.
were dying and getting cancer. The fact is those frontline communities.
We
just
know
don't-
it here. We know it here too, buddy.
How do you keep them safe? What do you do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close
it
down the
falls-
By
oil
the way, I would
industry?
transition from the oil industry, yes. I
Oh,
will
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
And here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that Texas?
Yeah,
Pennsylvania, Oklahoma.
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final question. Vice President Biden.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production. By 2050, totally.
All right. One
Is he
final
gonna get
question
China
to
to do
vote.
it?
No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin
question.
Paris
Cut his
Accord.
mic.
China abide by what they agreed to.
All right,
That'll
this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Ms.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time, et cetera. But I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT graduates, #1 in the class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes.
Oh,
and
this is
he wants
cool.
to raise everybody's taxes.
What do you have it set up?
Regulations and everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very
Scare
sad day.
tactic.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
I will say, I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear. We're going to choose to move forward because we have enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism. And at the same time, we can make sure that our economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, what is on the ballot here is the character of this country: decency, honor, respect, treating people with dignity, making sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right. I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight. Election Day
Sounded like
is
my closing a bit.
Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Thank you.
There you have it, second and final debate of this
All right.
2020.
Lauren, can we take this down or no?
Two white men.
What do you
There we
think
go.
there, Austin?
Wow. Well, I need some Advil and
It's
just
it was just a rehash of the same insanity. I mean, that we've heard. I mean, guys.
I think AJ's comment here is pretty good. Joe did fine. 45 was speaking to the MAGA folks, but Joe was speaking to the rest of us.
Ella says she needs more chocolate. More implies you were already eating some chocolate. I don't know. Listen. You there, Austin?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I mean, look at.
There we go.
I am going to saw some logs, as they say. Go to sleep. This, you guys, the viewers, probably don't know what that means, but anyway, it means snoring. I'm going to go to sleep and get up tomorrow. We have how many days left? 11 days to go.
12, I think.
What an incredible.
Maybe it's 11.
3 years of my life. Wow.
Over 1,000 days, and it all comes down to these.
Just can I say this? Everyone out there should realize, if you don't think Trump's a liar, here, I'm going to tweet this in live, real time. How about that? You ever see that happen? Yes, you did. Okay, we're going to do it again. If you don't think Trump's a liar, this is what I always come back to. He told the people of Western New York I was responsible for trade deals with China. I'm a dad, and the loss of millions of jobs. I'm a dad with 2 kids. I'm an unemployed dad with 2 kids. Unreality. He's a liar. There you go. Anything else you want to say?
I mean, I just grabbed mine. I think after that display, I think it's pretty clear who we all need in the White House after November 3rd. I have my absentee ballot right here. I have yet to fill mine out. I'm going to fill it out right now because it needs to get back. So if anybody else out there was undecided somehow, or if you just plumb forgot, fill it out, take it back, deliver it by hand. That's what I'm doing. Listen, we're endorsed by the letter carriers and the Postal Workers Union. I love them, but let's not leave anything to chance. Deliver your ballot.
One day until vote starts, right? One more day. Tomorrow it starts on Saturday, right?
Yes, Saturday. So early voting
people
starts.
Come out to our Get Out the Vote event Saturday night. People come out to our Scare Out the Vote at East Aurora on Sunday. We have some more events planned next week, right?
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna have the Vote-Toberfest is Saturday night here in Clarence, and then Scare Out the Vote in East Aurora Sunday afternoon. We're gonna have a Scare Out the Vote in Canandaigua on Thursday, and then we're planning some more events over on the east side and throughout the district for next weekend as well.
Yes, we are. We're gonna do some more stuff. We'll see you guys around, and listen. It's just more of the same nonsense. He was trying to, bring in conspiracy theories. He's been a fiasco. Biden looked smart, sharp, good, on top of things. He hit all the points he wanted to hit. He was right there with what I was thinking as I watched it. I wish he would be more proud of his record. He does have. I mean, listen, Biden and Obama, they passed the Affordable Care Act, which protected millions of Americans. It protected 60,000 people in NY27. And they never tried to cut Medicare. They never tried to cut Social Security. Trump has. Look at his budget. I wish we could have more debates with my guy. He's hidden the whole time. It's totally crazy. And but anyway, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow. We're going to do our debate. We're going to live stream our debate. We're going to have some other people on tomorrow, right? Is that where we're doing that tomorrow, right, Austin?
Yes.
So tune back in tomorrow night to live stream our debate. You can watch our debate. If you missed, we're going to do the whole thing live right here. So see you tomorrow night.
Thanks, everyone.